All right, let's do it. Come on, let's go.
All right. Hello and welcome back, everyone. It's been a wonderful 3-week little break for myself from podcasting, and actually a couple of weeks off just in general. So I'm happy to be back. I got married. Jake ate some pasta, which is pretty groundbreaking. He did. And we've got a really exciting episode today. So as you probably are aware of by now, since we're on our third news episode, essentially what we do is we're just going to go through a couple bits of news that Jake and I have picked up on over the weeks, and we're just going to have some back and forth and have a chat about it. It's not just generic news in the sense that it's pretty much around a kind of business topic, or we at least we have a discussion around how that will kind of affect small business, etc. So I'm going to kick off with my first bit of news, mate. I'm going to go straight in. So Google, and I picked this up in the Wall Street Journal actually. I can see your mouse actually on it, so I think you might have even just opened it up as I start speaking.
I have.
And we're going to get some little woofers in the background, by the way, and I absolutely love it. It's going to make me smile every time. So
sorry, disaster.
I like it. Cool. So Wall Street Journal article that they just picked up on some updates that Google are doing to the search results. Now, they've actually honed in on the product results kind of aspect of it, but there's a whole host of search results that Google are search updates that Google are bringing out over the next couple of months. Firstly, they're going to double down on visual search and other inputs for search. So they've been kind of for a while now, I think it's called Google Lens or something like that, where you take a photo of something and then it tries to obviously match that to things on the web. And the reason why that's kind of important is because with e-commerce, it works really well. So what they're doing is they're doubling down on within the product kind of product page section. If you go to Google Shopping, you'll see it. They're actually trying to make that look more and more like a marketplace. So reason why that's really interesting and why sort of Amazon and, the likes of the other big kind of e-commerce marketplaces are not going to like it is because to the user, it will actually start to feel like you are shopping already when you're inside the Google product results. So my take on this, by the way, and I haven't actually seen how this is going to look, but my take on it is that you're going to essentially get a feed that has like the image, obviously, of the product. It's going to have the price, a bit of text. It might have like a review widget. But I think it's going to be very standardized. So it looks and feels like you're on a Amazon result page, for example. So just my first take, and I'm going to be really interested to get your take on what you kind of think this means for either the big guys or the small guys. But for me, I think this is going to pop up a really interesting opportunity for people, small businesses, where as long as they're offering a quality experience on their page, Google is, in a sense, incentivized for sort of smaller niche companies to actually rank well in those search results. One, because they don't want to be fueling the likes of Amazon, etc. Essentially they're going down this product marketing strategy. They don't want to be giving more money to the big product marketing guys who are going to, try and beat them at their own game. But also because that's what's more relevant for a person, right? When I go onto Amazon, I'm searching. Here's an example, right? I don't know if you guys know, but the new iPhones do not ship with a plug for the wall. So you get the little cable, but you don't get the plug. That's fine. I've got millions of plugs. So went to plug my new cable into my old plug and realized that actually they've switched it to USB-C now. Who owns a USB-C plug? Maybe our guys, our listeners from the US do, but I certainly don't. Anyway, that's the type of thing that I would go to Amazon, type in and get it essentially. But if I found like I was having a satisfactory experience in Google products, I'd no longer go to Amazon because I'd much rather, if I typed in USB-C, wall plug, I'd like that to come from a wall plug supplier, for example, where I'm going to get, I'm going to get a choice of like some good ones. I know it's not going to overheat, like it's not going to be a piece of junk, whatever. And obviously, I still want it to be at a relative price, but they were like £20 on Amazon anyway. So I'm pretty sure people are going to be able to compete with that for a plug, right? So I think it really brings a really interesting and unique opportunity for people, whereby as long as they're doing the things that Google are obviously going to be looking for, like giving people a satisfactory kind of experience on page, load times, product imagery, all of that kind of stuff. I think people are going to get some really, really good organic juice from that. I'll stop. I've rambled. I'd love to get your take on kind of the direction of where this is going and what this could mean.
Yeah, man, I think it's so interesting, right? Even if we look at where we are today, we're just flicking through the article actually, and one thing it talks about is the improvements Google have made. In the process of their partnership somewhat with Shopify. So, back in the day, you had to buy certain spots and so on to get into the Google shopping realm. With the ability to auto import and stuff like that, the comment that stuck out to me was, it used to be really clunky. They've made some improvements, and as a result of the improvements, a company called Tally and Twine were able to shift their ad budget from Facebook to Google, and this year spent $100,000 on Google ads, but made over $400,000 of sales in that promo. So, it's don't get me wrong, that isn't exactly a mum and pup style shop. That's not a small business, but nonetheless, it is a company utilizing the software and the services and the improvements that have occurred to go and drive traffic directly to their site. So, although it's not quite the same in that it's not a small business, I do believe that stuff like that is a great example of where we are seeing the small style consumer, or just the consumer style brand, shall we say. Yes, they realize they might have to be on Amazon, but they're really trying to put the focus on driving customers to their own site, because ultimately Amazon's a bit of a black hole. You acquire your customer and you don't have any real control. And, as one of the comments in the article is, if there's only really one place to buy things in the future, it's going to be a pretty boring world, right? So I'd much rather give my money, same as you, to a brand like that. And so, yeah, ultimately, I love the idea. Anything Google or other style places. Google's a great example because it's so synonymous with trying to find something great. But anything that they can do that's going to enable a merchant to actually drive traffic to their own site instead of to a marketplace, I believe is a great win. So I love that from a merchant standpoint. Now, from a consumer standpoint, am I thrilled that when I go and Google something, I'm going to get hit with a ton of shopping ads, or essentially shopping ads? I know they might be a little bit more discreet and a little bit more built in, but am I thrilled about that? I can't say I am. So I'm split decision. From a merchant point, kind of love it. From a consumer point of, not let's take down Amazon, but let's try and give some fairness back into the market. Great. And that becomes particularly important in an article I'll cover later. So, really, really interesting, man.
That's it. No, I like your point around the consumer perspective. I hadn't actually, to be honest, I hadn't really processed that in my mind. I went straight to business, and I just thought, what does this mean for us, essentially as small business owners? What's it mean for us? And I think that ultimately you're going to find if it's successful, we're going to find ourselves in a space where Google knows so much about us. That's a given, right? They know, they have so much data on us. We're logged into our Google account. They know what we're shopping for. They can predict what we essentially are going to want. I'm sat on the fence a little bit about it, in the sense that it's a bit freaky that they'll know exactly what you want. But say I type in something really generic like t-shirt, well, they're going to know that I like the color blue. They know that typically I'm a size large, whatever, they're going to know some things about me that are typical of me, and they're going to give me a relevant search result. And actually, although it's not necessarily the best thing in the world that they're being super specific and they know everything about you, it is ultimately going to give you more and more of a relevant, result. But I also think that from a kind of business perspective, in order to keep up with that, I think that we're going to see some kind of consolidation of terms. So, for example, right, for this to be a flawless experience for people, people are going to want to, and people actually kind of use the platform, use Google, and actually use that like a marketplace. They're going to want to know that within a kind of a certain remit, they're going to get the same terms broadly across anything that they click on. Because what a horrible experience it will be if you go to, I've typed, let's carry on with the t-shirts thing, right? I've typed in t-shirts, it's given me some beautiful blue size large t-shirts that they know is in stock, good reviews, whatever. I'm going to click on one of them. And if it turns out they don't have a returns policy, therefore I can't try it on, that's going to be a really unsatisfactory experience for me, because who would buy from a clothes shop that doesn't have that kind of like a decent returns policy? So, I think what's going to end up happening is that in order for you to be featured on here, you're going to have to kind of conform to a set of standards that I think Google are going to very much have like a heavy handing kind of setting, even if not directly, I think indirectly.
I think it brings a lot of concerns for me as well when I think, if I look at a shopping ad now, when you're typing that sort of stuff in, a lot of the top results are things like Wish. And, Wish has its merit, but if I'm looking for something, it's rare I'm necessarily looking for the cheapest thing. So, and Wish ultimately probably is going to be what's providing the cheapest items. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you in that there's going to be a certain set of standards. And also, by the way, Wish, their returns policy it's not bad, but it ain't exactly easy given that most of the stuff's coming all the way from China, right? So, I'm also very torn on this. As it comes, more to fruition, will we take advantage of it? I'm sure we probably will. From a merchant standpoint, I love it. I do find it a hard concept though as a consumer.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, man. And I think we'll probably call it there on that one, because I'm really excited to see what bit of news you've got.
You're going to find this funny.
Yeah, I've just scrolled down and we try not to read each other's show notes, but my eyes flicked down to some, so I'm really intrigued. But just before we do, my eye just flicked over. We normally do this at the end, but actually I think it's a perfect time to maybe just really quickly show the people that are following us on YouTube. And I don't know, this might have already come onto the screen before I saw, but I've only got a little window of myself. Look how good our new packaging. Look at this, our new branding, our new packaging. It looks incredible. I really wanted to just bring this up because, center of the podcast or the YouTube episode, wherever you're joining us, we've launched our new branding. We'd love you to check out our site. If you turn to a customer, we'd love that as well. But just go and check out our site and see what you think. This is our daily drinker that I'm holding in our hands, and I'm very excited about it. And we've got a unique code for our listeners, which is podcast15, gets you 15% off. Jake, I don't know if you want to add anything there, but sorry to kind of jump in with that, but I got a bit excited.
No, the only thing I'll add is just for those that, aren't watching us on the YouTube. Wow, I sounded like Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn there. The YouTube. There we go. And for anybody that doesn't know, that is a reference to a little bit of Google or the internship. But anyway, for anyone that isn't watching us, then all I will say is our new packaging. We've decided to go different. We've tried to be innovative here. We're so happy. We've also had some new photography done, so our new packaging is actually a nice clear bag, and it actually is going to let the coffee do the talking, which we believe is the important part, because ultimately we love our coffee and we stand behind it. We're going to let the coffee do the talking. We've had some lovely, gorgeous new images put together. We'd love you to check them out, even if you don't come and be a customer. Check it out, and we'd love to actually get some feedback. So if you've got any, kick it our way. But yeah, great point to drop that in there, bud. Taking it on to the next piece of news, I think, and I think you're going to find this one quite funny. So in classic fashion here, I am bringing our thoughts to the world of food, but not just the standard world of food. I am bringing our thoughts to the world of turkeys. All right, so for anyone that doesn't know, and Rory literally kills himself at this every year, I'm a man that believes in turkey at Christmas being basically gospel, right? You can have other meats, but you've got to have your turkey. And not only have you got to have your turkey, you know, I'm not an old lady like Rory sits and drinks his sherry, you know, at a young age, which is hilarious, by the way. I don't know anyone else your age that drinks sherry, but never mind. So I'm a man that believes that turkey is golden. You know, you can have everything else. I'm okay with some gammon or some ham or, you know, beef, lamb, doesn't matter. You've got to have some turkey. And I believe that so much that every year I actually buy 2 turkeys, right? So I buy 2 turkeys because I will never run out of turkey at that point. I end up having turkey basically throughout the whole of January through using the freezer. And I also believe that, you know, to get the perfect turkey on Christmas Day, you have to practice Christmas Eve. So anyway, that gives you some context as to why this is such a funny story. And Rory is just shaking his head at this point, but nonetheless, right. So we turn our attention to the article, and I've got to be honest, mate. I found this one. I found the article and thought, there's no way I can talk about this because I don't even know where to begin because I am so angry. So angry. Right. So basically, the article goes on to talk about how, as we approach Christmas, there's going to be a turkey shortage. Right. So firstly, I'm not happy about this because I will not handle a turkey shortage at Christmas very well. So, you know, you're getting an insight. The listeners here are getting a real insight into me. But they're saying there's going to be a turkey shortage. And the key reasons, you know, I'm going to just cover off, you know, at a high level. Ultimately, that they are attributing the turkey shortage down to the fact that there are now less Europeans in the country as a result of Brexit, with the right skills. And what I mean by Europeans, I mean Europeans, aka drivers, aka 5.5K drivers. They also believe that a large portion of, you know, the Europeans that worked in the turkey industry or the poultry industry that have returned home as a result of Brexit have taken their valuable skills with them. So I have several issues here. Firstly, Brexit has caused this. Secondly, like, yeah, could have all seen this coming. Thirdly, like, I don't know about you, and in fact, I do know about you because we discussed this the other day. The fuel crisis over the last week and a half has been mental, okay? Absolutely insane. I have never seen such ludicrousy, okay? So we look back to the start of lockdown. We had ludicrousy over toilet roll and tinned goods, okay? But that, reasonably fair. Level of stupidity, you know, overstocking, overbuying, but mostly, you know, there was a delay getting most things into the country. The big issue with the fuel crisis is that there wasn't enough drivers to get stuff to the pumps, and then people went and bought like nutters. Like, you don't need 6 jerry cans, for crying out loud. What's that all about? All right. So all I'm thinking, you know, firstly, I think there are a couple of points I'm going to make. Then I'm going to turn it to you. Then I'm going to come back with a couple of nuggets from the article. Okay. So firstly, overall, the UK supply chains are a mess. Next, how can we end up in a situation where in parallel and almost in complete parallels, we have globalization, aka, you know, we're getting stuff from all over the world. And then this ideal where this whole sovereignty starts to kick in, aka things like Make America Great Again, aka things like Brexit, you know, all of this stuff. It just blows my mind that nobody saw this coming. All in, I'm going to pause there and then I'm going to come back and hit you with a couple of facts about, you know, the shortages and how big that's going to be. So, dude, hit me with your overall thoughts.
Yeah, all right. Well, I've got a ton of thoughts, so I might have to curb my enthusiasm here. You've really amped me up, all that screaming into the microphone. Firstly, I'm kind of glad that there's going to be a turkey shortage. I've got to be honest, turkey is my least favourite of the roasting meats. I don't know if that's a thing. I'm really sorry to say it, and if my mum's listening, I'm really, really sorry. I really couldn't care any less about the turkeys. However, I understand that is a Christmas institution for you, and my heart is breaking right now that if you go to the supermarket to do what you would normally do, which is buy 2 turkeys. By the way, I can attest to the fact that Jake will buy 2 turkeys always, not because he's hoarding, but because he wants the perfect Christmas turkey. So he practices the day before. I get it. You're going to look like a monster. If you go in during a turkey crisis and buy 2 turkeys, you are going to be, well, to be honest, I'd go in with security, mate. You're going to get lynched. So
I know.
So I think that's the first thing. I'll just get that off my chest. I don't care, but I do understand why you would care. Now, the thing that I think is actually mad on all of this, I do get that, our kind of recent trend towards nationalism that we've seen across the Western world has created issues that everyone could see coming, which is a shortage of skilled labor moving, across between countries or borders or whatever you want to call it. But I actually think a lot of this is hyped by the media. We didn't have an issue with fuel. We actually had, and I mean, again, I'm reading stuff and I know I'm sitting in my own echo chamber because I'm sat there reading from the same news sources or whatever. So yeah, okay, I might have a view that's slightly skewed as well. But from what I've seen, we don't have an issue with fuel, as in we have enough in the country at the ports. There has been some issues with some having less drivers, but that never happened overnight. That's been happening for a really long, extended period of time. But the media caught hold of it, said fuel crisis, bang. Everyone went absolutely mental, bought loads of fuel. I'm really worried for you, mate, because the news has already picked up the turkey crisis. There's going to be no turkeys at Christmas.
We're only in October.
It's mad. It's crazy. I haven't even seen, I've been to a few shops. I haven't started to see the Christmas thing happen yet. I'm sure it will happen very soon. But honestly, mate, if it started now, there won't be a shortage of turkeys, but there will be families that have 8 turkeys that they've gone out and bought because there's a shortage of turkey. So I'm really sorry, mate. I don't think you're going to get turkey this year.
Mate, and let's be clear. The other thing I will clear up is, yes, Rory's correct. I do buy 2 turkeys every year without fail. We have hit 3 years now. It is not just me doing it. It's a tradition. Okay? And that's actually been a requirement the last 2 years. We've actually required 2 turkeys. We've had 2 turkey fiascos 2 years in a row. The first time round, we cooked a beautiful second turkey. It was delicious. However, it wasn't put back in the fridge after it was cooked, and therefore it went off. So we had a whole turkey that went off because it wasn't put in the fridge. The second time, Sainsbury's sold me a turkey that had until the 26th on it, and then on Christmas Day, it smelled like a donkey's ass. Okay? All I'll say is Sainsbury's got the most irate email you have ever unbelievably seen. So, yes, 2 turkeys, not necessary for everyone. I find it necessary because I have learnt from experience, but you're right. I'm going to be considered a monster, and yet in the same vein, I guarantee you, in the same way people are filling up 8 jerry cans, they're going to be buying 8 turkeys. Note out to Rory's mum, if you ever want, to replace your son for Christmas because he's absolutely clearly a turkey, nutter, always, I'm always willing to come round, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, that's enough of that. So, I've just managed to bargain my own invite to your mum's Christmas, I think. I don't know. Anyway, yes. So I'm going to stop there because otherwise I'm going to get angry. All I will finish up with is a couple of facts for those that are wondering, what does a turkey shortage look like? So, apparently some farms have seen increases of around 400%. The, British Poultry Council has estimated that across the sector, aka leading chicken producers across the country, there are around 7,000 vacancies that can't be filled, which has left, and this is poultry as a whole, not just turkey. Nando's, KFC, with potentially not getting their full fill. And then last thing that I will say is, they are expected, the UK government, which, is a whole different situation, they are expected to put some temporary visas in place, short-term temporary visas, for around 5,500 drivers to come back to the UK as we approach Christmas. Not directly and only related to the turkey crisis that we could potentially have on our hands, but the turkey crisis, the fuel crisis, getting stuff around as we approach Christmas. So 5,500 people coming from Europe. Come on in, welcome. But it is mental. We find ourselves in a situation that the government are having to issue temporary visas. But I'm going to stop there because I can already feel my heart just, done. I'm gonna have to take a moment. Over to you, mate, because this is too much.
Lie down, mate. I can tell. No, perfect. That was a good one, mate. I absolutely love how your first one came to food. I'm just loving that. All right. Cool. So the second piece of news that I have, or my final piece of news, taking it back over to the wonderful world of podcasts. So if you're joining us on YouTube, please note that this is also a podcast, and you should definitely join us over there when you are back to your commute, when you're back in the office, or, if you're finding yourself lonely at home whilst you're working from home, listen to our podcast. So Jake's waving for those of you that are listening to us on podcast. So Spotify are rolling out some new kind of features, and I'm not going to go too far into what the features are because actually I don't think that's not the point I'm trying to get to. But the features that they're rolling out are essentially kind of bringing in some interactive offerings as part of the kind of creation process of podcasts. So what they're doing is they're allowing podcast creators to add polls and Q&As to their podcasts. This is just through Anchor FM at the moment, but I'm sure it will roll out wider, once they've tested it out. But what I think is really cool about this is that Spotify have been at the front, I wouldn't say the forefront of the podcast revolution, because obviously Apple was at the forefront of the podcast revolution. If anyone didn't realize, podcast is a term coined by Apple. Ultimately they're at the front of it. But Spotify has been taking it very, very seriously recently. I think, did they buy the Joe Rogan show off of YouTube actually for a crazy amount of money? Essentially, yeah. I thought you might have known this one. Yeah. So there's I can't quite exactly what it is. I'll go and have a look in a bit. But yeah, a lot of money essentially. So they've been doing a lot of things, and I think what's really great about it is that podcasting has become a bigger and bigger thing over the last few years. I think hugely fueled obviously by the pandemic and people having some more time that they need to kill. But if you even look at companies like iHeartRadio, so they're obviously a huge network of content creators, really. I think at this point they do loads and loads of different things, but they are buying up some really, really quality content. Like if you go and have a look at some of the stuff that they're bringing out, they've got series that are coming out on podcast, really, high production value stuff. So yeah, really, really cool. But what's nice is that actually, although there's been a boom to it, it's pretty stagnant in the technology, isn't it? You download it, and I mean, even the podcast app, it annoys me a lot of the time. It just doesn't. It does. There's stuff that I think it should do at this point that it really just doesn't do. For example, when I search my favorite podcast, which you guys will be really sad to hear, my favorite podcast is obviously our own podcast. But my second favorite is one called Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. So shout out to the Stuff They Don't Want You to Know guys. Anyway, I type in Stuff You and it brings up the most popular one every single time, which is Stuff You Should Know. But I've been clicking Stuff They Don't Want You to Know for the last 3 or 4 years. So you'd think it would get it right. Anyway, they haven't done much to improve the overall experience. But what I really like that Spotify's doing here is they're going, okay, let's see what we can do over and above the standard podcast experience. And they're starting to bring in this kind of idea of audience interaction. I really like it. I'd love to see it go a little bit further than that. And I'm not sure exactly what it is, but maybe live podcast episodes. I know we could live stream onto YouTube, but could we do live podcast episodes, bring some of that stuff more into the mainstream. So this is a fairly small one, mate. I don't expect, sort of groundbreaking kind of rhetoric on this one, but, I thought this was really interesting. It plays to our hearts. We're sat here doing a podcast and we're talking about podcast stuff, but yeah, what's your thoughts on making podcasts a little bit more interactive?
It's a tough one. So I say a tough one. They're all tough ones, mate, because these things always are, right? But so I agree with you on the podcast app. I honestly think some of the rudimentary stuff it should be doing by this point is just unbelievable how it doesn't do it. Even just the things you're subscribed to and how it orders those is baffling. It's so frustrating. overall, though, I do like the move from Spotify, right? They're trying to be a bit different. They're going out there and saying, do you know what? We're trying to pioneer some different things. I can't say I'm thrilled to have to, do a poll or a quiz or anything like that. But looking at the screenshots of how they're going to integrate it, I actually think it's going to be pretty cool, because it's going to be in a similar way to the way that, at the moment, you've got either a video playing below or you've got lyrics showing, or it doesn't look like it's going to be too intrusive. It looks like it's going to be there. It's not necessarily going to stop midway through. That's just what I'm kind of understanding. It looks like it's going to be an additional feature that will be available to try and maybe increase engagement, and not something that's going to stop the podcast experience, because that for me would be a problem. If I'm listening to my podcast and I'm out on a walk or whatever, wherever I am, and all of a sudden it's like, it's already annoying enough when you get an ad if it feels too intrusive. But if you get an please, jump to our quiz section and we're going to pause for 30 seconds whilst you take time to answer the quiz, that's going to become annoying. So part of that's going to be controlled by the technology. The other part of that's going to be controlled as to how people structure their shows. Because, So overall, I like the concept. I think a lot of it's going to come down to how it's implemented.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, mate. No, I think, I'd love to kind of test some of this stuff out, but I'm totally with you. I think unless that kind of integration is flawless in the sense that it kind of fits with the ethos of the brand and like actually, the experience doesn't feel like it's too interrupted. I think if they can essentially do it where it rolls in really nicely and you kind of get to a point where you've got, I'm just trying to think how it would work for us, but, we might say, what did you hear about this news in your region or whatever, as we're talking now, and somebody just clicks to say, well, no, we didn't even hear about that in the US. Like, we're talking about Turkeygate. So it might, it'd be nice to kind of get that feedback, but not in an intrusive way. So no, I think it's cool. Let's watch this space. I love that, as I say, space, Jake looks like he's rolling around in space. I was just going to drop us to our next one, but I don't know, are you in a position to do that, mate? Because if not, I can definitely talk about our brand a little bit more. So let me do that.
Talk about the brand. Filibuster for me. Filibuster. All right, dude, I'm back. We've gone rogue. We're on the road. So we basically came across an issue here where there is only one plug at my mum's house that you can plug into, and unfortunately, based on the skirting beading, the Mac charger doesn't plug in. It's too big. So I have to use the plug in the front room, which means that's why I'm now, on the move, hiding in the front room, and taking you on a little tour of my mum's house. So there we go. We're ready to go. The dogs are not happy about it. I've stolen their space, but here we go. I think we can roll. Can you still hear me?
I can, and I'm very excited to have you back. Pluggate, Turkeygate, what's next?
Mate, next gate is Macys, right? So the next thing we're talking about is US high streets. And as we kind of alluded to when we discussed your first topic about Amazon being a bit dominant, this article kind of goes on to focus about how, and I got to be honest, it's maybe a little funny that, they've got themselves this way. But at the same time, grand scheme of things, I really think this is potentially the chance that Amazon are trying to jump in and potentially kill big retail. So essentially the article talks about how Macys, a big box department store in the US, for anyone that's not aware of who Macys are, they have a billboard which is 2,200 square foot that sits directly opposite their largest flagship store in Herald Square, New York, I believe. I might have that wrong. I probably should have checked, but we'll say it's outside their department store in Herald Square. And they have had this billboard under lease since 1963, would you believe it or not? And the lease actually expired in August this year. And the issue that's kind of come up, and the reason I found this one really interesting is it sounds like Amazon have managed to get their name in and get potentially the next lease under it. So you basically, you know, this sits directly opposite Macys' big flagship store. And as I say, it's huge, right? It's 2,200 square foot. This thing is ginormous. It's the size of a mini building, right? And the reason that's so important, by the way, is obviously, you know, it's not just outside the flagship store, but it is extremely visible. And this is actually how I am comfortable that it's in New York. It's extremely visible during the Macys Thanksgiving Day Parade, okay? So, you know, Macys sponsored a big Thanksgiving Day Parade that runs through New York City, and it's extremely visible. It's one of the biggest advertising spots during that period. And basically, yeah, so the crux of it is this thing's ginormous. You know, they've had this billboard for 60-odd years at this point, or just shy. And, yeah, in essence, Amazon have come in, and it's sounding like they are going to be the next ones to advertise. They have declined to comment. And Macys have taken this to court because Macys believe that despite the fact that their lease has expired, the contract that was signed prevents Kaufman, who is the owner of the billboard, from allowing a competitor to advertise on the billboard in perpetuity. So essentially what they're saying is, despite the fact that their lease is up, no direct competitor is meant to be advertising on that billboard. I'm going to stop there to give you a second to comment, and hopefully these dogs pipe down.
It's going to be really funny if the noise cancelling's worked so well that nobody can hear the dogs, but they just see our reactions. They'll just be like, "What's going on?" Mate, this is a really interesting one for a couple of reasons, and I've just Googled it because I wanted to see what this looks like, and you're not joking. It is the size of a couple of buildings almost. It's mad. It's a huge billboard on the corner. Interestingly, it looks like it's actually just above the Sunglasses Hut, which makes me think it's not even really above the Macys store. I think the Macys store is off to the left, isn't it? But anyway, it's just really interesting because actually what they're going to have to argue in court is that Amazon is a direct competitor. And although that sounds really obvious, they are a direct competitor. I don't know. I think it'll be a really hard thing to argue because anybody could argue that Amazon is a direct competitor. They sell everything. So what's really going to be very interesting about that is whoever would be able to advertise on this billboard. You know, it's always going to be some kind of consumer-led brand, and Macys is going to have an argument that they're a competitor. I do get their worry. I think they're worried about obviously Amazon pointing it to those kind of those stores. I was just looking down, and actually there's some sort of images of those physical Amazon stores that I think are really interesting. I don't think we've got those in the UK, but I think they're going to obviously be really upset if there's a big old arrow on it saying Amazon store this way or something, like pointing in the opposite direction to Macys. So yeah, it's crazy, man. I'm actually looking and thinking to myself, well, it's a pretty old-fashioned looking sign, to be honest. Like, I'm surprised it's not, like a high-tech screen or something like that can kind of have some dynamic advertising on it. Maybe that's what this new the actual owner, the leasee, or what would you be, the landlord of the billboard? The leaser? The leaser? Yeah, the leaser.
Yeah,
the leaser, like the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, why not?
But no, really, really interesting one, man. I think I'd love to see how they actually battle this one out, and it'll probably end up being years and years in court. All the while, Amazon will have a big old arrow pointing people to their local store.
I have two issues with this, right, though, dude. The first one is I have an issue from a Macys perspective. I just think unbelievable, right? I would almost go to say the level of incompetence to have allowed this. Maybe that's harsh because maybe they tried, but I find this almost as ridiculous as, that article that came out that when Google lost their own domain name.
That was like their Polish domain name or something, wasn't it?
I find it almost that ridiculous. If it was that important to Macys, They've held it for 60 years. I get that maybe there was a contractual issue that we're not aware about, but for me, I find it almost as baffling as the Google losing their own domain name, google.com. So anyway, I can't believe that Macys have let it go, if it was that important to them. The article talks about that if this becomes an Amazon thing, it's going to do irreversible damage to the Macys brand. Yes, which I agree with, but that the article also talks about not only these these in-person stores that Amazon have kind of put together, bookstores and Amazon Fresh and stuff like that. It talks that actually Amazon are also now looking to move into department store style shops, smaller than standard department stores. So it says, and it's paired with another article that I've kind of paired the two together, it talks that most department stores are like a Macys are around 100 square feet. Amazon potentially are looking to do about 30% of that, around 30 square feet, right? But they're still going to be looking to do large style department store items. And I just find that really interesting. This to me stinks of Amazon essentially going about, blowing up the web, and not necessarily even doing it deliberately, but going about blowing up the web and getting to a situation where they dominate most online traffic. And there's already the argument that the web has killed the high street. And as the web kills the high street, and given that we've just we've just gone through COVID already, and we've seen more and more stores go bankrupt and therefore leave their spaces, Amazon then going, oh, do you know what? There's a load of delightful old graves over there. Let's go and set up store in those graves. And for me, I just find it absolutely mind-boggling. So, yeah, really interesting one. I'm going to throw it to you for one last comment if you've got anything. And if not, I think we should wrap up, dude.
Yeah, I guess my comment would be watch this space, in the sense that I think Amazon has been very similar to Google in that they're willing to roll stuff out before it's truly tested. And I'd be interested to see if they do a good job of this. I see them with a lot of their products, because it's not their shiny toy that they kind of care most about, they seem to let them go by the wayside a little bit. And maybe people have got a different opinion, and I'm seeing this from a very UK-centric point of view. And obviously, we don't get a lot of their trial type things that will obviously happen out in the US. But yeah, I like the idea. I relish the idea of them kind of revitalizing and re-energizing that kind of in-store experience, because I think that's important. I think the high street needs it. I'd rather it not be Amazon.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it, dude? Because if you think about it, it'd be really cool if Amazon Go style technology kind of came about in more high street style stores. But then again, Apple do stuff like that. You can walk into an Apple store, you pick up a set of headphones, you log into the Apple app, you scan it, you pay on your credit card, and you walk straight out. You've had to speak to no one. More stores could do with doing that, and I'm with you. It would be nice if it wasn't necessarily Amazon that led the charge. But yeah, let's call it there. We've run a nice long news episode there. We hope you've enjoyed today. I think we caught 4 really interesting articles, and certainly from all sorts of different parts of the world. The spectrum. We had Turkeygate, we had Amazon and Google battling it out in a couple, and then we also had the future of podcasting. So we hope you enjoyed. As Rory said, please check out our new branding. Don't forget we've got podcast 15, and we'd love to hear from you with regards to feedback. So till next time.